I get a phone call from my father about 8 years ago. He calls me and he says, Holly, there's been an accident. And at first I'm like, okay, Dad, what do you mean there's been an accident? Explain to me. He was like, it's pretty bad. I need you to come to the scene right away. I remember looking at my husband, and it was Mother's Day, so we had already prepared food and meals. We're getting things together with the family. I remember getting in the car, and as I was driving down to the scene, I remember just shaking. My whole body was shaking because I could hear her screaming in the background. I could hear my dad's tears. Honestly, it seemed crazy, but it was like out of a movie. You know, you just saw all this chaos and confusion, and at the time I didn't know how to feel, and all I wanted to do was to be there for my family. So I remember getting to the hospital, the helicopter coming in, and my father crying, going up to the room, and as I go to the room, you know, my brother, he is laying there. And while he's laying there, they declared him brain dead. And I know the doctors told my father and his wife that he wasn't gonna make it. It was a lot of hurt, it was a lot of pain, but at the same time, I will admit, you know, there was anger. Of course there's gonna be anger because there was no understanding of what happened. I still didn't know the whole story when I got there until my father explained to me that Joshua was hit by a drunk driver. The young man had hit him. I know I hit a breaking point, and I told my husband, I was like, we need to find a good church. And we happened to drive down Ballsford Road, and we looked to the left, and it said a sign, Life Church. I said, okay, that's where we're going. 7 months we were at the church when I we're just having a random conversation, just trying to learn a little bit about worship and learn a little bit about the church. And in the midst of the conversation, we were discussing, you know, where do I fit in the church? You know, I was asking, you know, where can I help out and what can I do? And then when I started putting all the pieces together, they go, well, what pulls out the best in you? And I explained a little bit what pulls out the best in me and how I love worship. I love people. And they said, well, talk to me a little bit about the hurt. And I told a little bit of my brother's story. And in the midst of telling my story, the look on the face, I don't know. It was a priceless look, but I said, okay, God, it's something, you know, because a few questions were asked back, and I ended up putting the puzzle pieces together, and I ended up realizing I was going to the church with the family of the young man that did kill my brother in an accident. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't stay at the church because I felt like I was so distracted. I felt like my mind had so many different things running through it. Like, why are you here? Why are you putting yourself through this? And I had no direction, none at all. So I had to leave the church. Why am I having to relive something that I closed the door on? Because I said I never wanted to think about it again. And death hurts. Death, it does hurt. And even though I was away for 6 months, I pushed myself all the time. I still stayed in God's word, but I wouldn't come back yet because I didn't know when it was right. Until one day, you know, I told my husband, it's time. It's time to go back. And I went to my father. I said, Dad, I want to tell you something. I said, look, I am going to the church with the family. He looked at me. He had tears. And in the midst of his tears, he says, good. He said, you stay there because I've forgiven them and I want you to do the same. I remember picking up the phone and calling Pastor Sean and telling him I want to meet the family. How does this work? What do I need to do? I thought I would be nervous, but I wasn't. And to be honest, I felt love when I walked in the room. And I felt God's presence when I walked in the room. And I'm not sure if they knew who I was. So I was like, okay. You know, and I introduced myself. And I remember at first we all just sat there and we just looked at each other. But it's normal, you know, it's normal. And I remember, you know, introducing myself and they introduced themselves. And, you know, we had tears. And I remember just talking and I said, you know, we have two things in common. We love this church and we love God. I said, let's just make this work. And you know, I remember through the conversation, it started off in tears, but it ended in joy. I remember getting a message from Donna letting me know that her son would be getting out of jail. And I know when I met Aaron, I walked inside and Roddy, I love him. I love his personality because he said, you know what, my son is here. And it felt good to see the joy on his face because he was proud, and you should be proud. That is his son. And I remember him walking me in to meet his son, and he was surrounded by, you know, a lot of, I guess, his family members. And I went up to him and I said, I'm Holly. And he just looked. So I said, okay, I'm gonna break the silence. And I just gave him a hug because I knew that's what I wanted in my heart. That's what I wanted to do.
This is my first time here since the day of my accident, May 11th, 2008. I got out of prison in January of 2015, and I've put this off until today. And she's comforting me because I'm a mess. I'm breaking down, and she's telling me that it's okay. This is now our story.